Telling past client success stories is probably the easiest way to start creating content. So this is the fourth video in a series of four on the podcast, where I'm basically talking about coming up with content ideas, where to get content ideas, how to structure those stories and those scripts so that you can tell compelling stories that consumers that are going online looking for answers to questions to their more looking for answers to their mortgage questions, they're going to find you and they're going to recognize you as an expert, as somebody who's an experienced mortgage professional, and they're going to reach out to you after they already know, like, and trust you. Telling past client stories is the single best way to get started. Uh, so when we talk about content topic ideas, the really the power behind the past client success story strategy is the fact that you probably went through some journey with this consumer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what type of past client stories you want to pull up. But there's a few reasons why we do past client stories. First of all, there's an emotional attachment to the journey that you went on with that client. First of all, you're going to pick clients that had a little hair on them or had a little bit of challenges or a little bit of problems, the stuff that we're great at, right? The stuff that when everything doesn't go easy, we still get them across the finish line. So as you start recalling those stories, the emotion comes back and you remember going through that experience and how they felt when you ran into the hurdle and then how they reacted when you overcame the hurdle. So as we unpack these stories, the reason I like past client stories is because, first of all, they are the best way to exhibit our expertise and our professionalism, because you're basically saying, don't trust me. Here's how I solved this problem for this consumer in the past. So you're in good hands is really what it comes down to. Now, the normal 3-point strategy, we don't use it exactly. So the 3-point strategy is you have the hook and you unpack the hook. The hook was the main hurdle, the main problem, and we're going to talk about that. You unpack the hook. Then you have 3 related questions, or you have 3 points you want to make about this topic, and then you offer to help to close. That's your normal 3 points content strategy. The past client success structure is a little bit different. What we're doing with this is we're starting with the hook and we're unpacking the hook. Now, the hook is the challenge. So maybe this particular client you're talking about, I do a lot of examples with student loans. So maybe they had student loans. They talked to somebody, calculated their student loan payments wrong, told them their debt to income ratio was too high. So they denied them. So the hook on that um, is basically, I want to tell you a story about a family that was turned down by 3 other lenders because those loan officers don't know how to calculate your student loan payments. Then you unpack the hook. What was the solution? The solution is essentially that you have to calculate. First of all, you have to determine which program, and then you have to know all of the calculations for those loan programs. How did you apply the solution? Maybe you actually got their student loans updated so that maybe you right-sized their payments, got them into an income-based payment because they were in a fully amortized payment before. How do you avoid this yourself or anybody that's listening? And then the offer to help close. Now, how do you find inspiration for past client stories? This is easy. First of all, they're just past clients. So if you have past clients that are fresh in your head from the last year, 2 years, our hardest ones, our hardest fought victories, our hardest fought battles that ended in victory, you're going to remember. So you probably have at least a half a dozen stories of consumers that you've helped in the past. Current or past clients. Now, you don't have to wait until you're done, until you've closed the loan in order to do a video about this. I would do it while you're in escrow, while you're in process. If you run into a hurdle that you've overcome, you can use current current prospects that you're working on right now that are in escrow, that's a great one. Quite frankly, there's a lot of consumers that are in escrow that run into challenges, and that they're going back online and they're asking questions about that particular situation that they're in their process. And we'll definitely unpack that at a later date. But that's a really good one. And then other buyers' experiences. If you run out of past client stories of your own, talk to other loan officers in your office, or in the Facebook groups that you're in. Put a poll out there. Hey, who had the craziest the craziest experience with a buyer? And you can tell those stories. Again, it doesn't have to be you saving the day. It has to be you talking about how the day can be saved. And that's what you're really doing when you're online doing these videos, unpacking these things. So as a past client example, some of the things that you want to look for in a perfect case scenario, it looks like this. The client was turned down by another lender. They found you, you solved the problem, you the loan was closed, and the day was saved. That's a perfect case scenario. And there are a ton of those. Now, I don't know if I've run into way more of these than anybody else, because I have findmywayhome.com. But I'm telling you, out of the tens of thousands of consumers that come to our website every single month, high 90% are consumers that already were turned down by another loan officer. So almost all of my past clients have been told no, or were turned down by another loan officer, because I've been doing consumer direct, telling these stories, sharing my experience for 15 years now. And so that's most of what I get. If you don't have a lot of those experiences, again, you might have to pull from other people's experiences. Past experience examples, again, it doesn't have to always be success stories. Sometimes it can just be experience stories. So it doesn't just have to be a successful loan that's closed. Sometimes it can be an experience that you had while working with a past client. Talk about escrows that fell through. Talk about deals that fell out in the middle and why. It could have been a property issue. It could have been maybe the other lender did turn them down. You picked it up while it was in escrow and they never qualified in the first place. That's a really, really good topic. If you can unpack that and kind of let people know that, hey, this can happen. And then mistakes that buyers made. These are great videos. Here's 3 common mistakes that buyers make that will help that will almost 100% make you lose the home. You know, my creative juices are not good enough right now while I'm recording this to come up with a really snazzy clickbaity headline, but you kind of get the point. If a buyer didn't tell you something, they didn't disclose something, they thought you would find it out, they didn't bring it up, they didn't think it was important, they didn't think anybody was going to ask, and it ends up causing a problem later. That's a really good topic. Negotiation wins, and especially concessions. As I'm recording this is January of 2023. Seller concessions are all the rage. Those seller concessions can be used for almost anything except for down payment. But most of those seller concessions can be used to pay all your closing costs, or what's really popular right now is buying down the interest rate, either permanent buy downs or temporary buy downs, and explaining what that means. So using real life scenarios, real negotiation scenarios, these are all really, really good past experience examples. Again, you're not coming up with these topics out of the blue. This is your past experience, and you're converting this into content. So the 3-point script structure is your best practices script template. But again, we're going to expand this just a little bit, but you still want to think along those lines. So your common issue is going to be your hook. Your hook is your clickbait. That's the first thing you say when you start your video. And ultimately, what you want to try to do is to tell a story in a single sentence that's common enough to attract the kind of attention that you want. Now, this is a really important thing when it comes to content. You are going to attract the type of consumer that you are trying to help. So if you're doing all past clients that are using down payment assistance and bond programs or grants, you're going to attract people that need money for down payment, don't have any money for closing costs, and they're looking for free money. Now, that's not a bad thing at all, but you have to be prepared. Whatever you create content for, you're going to attract that type of consumer. And I think we've hit on that on a couple of different episodes, but that's really important here. Your hook is to tell a story in a single sentence that's common enough to attract the type of attention that you want. And that could be as simple as, 3 buyer mistakes, or 3 mistakes every new home buyer must avoid. Things like that type of thing. So you want to tell a story in a single sentence, and that's your hook. When you're unpacking the hook, and we kind of went through this in the other episode, you're not alone. So this particular client that had this particular problem, the reason I was able to help them is because it's actually more common than you would think. You're not alone in this. There's a lot of loan officers out there that are lazy, or they're inexperienced, or they work for a call center lender, and they're just not equipped to handle this particular problem that you have. Here's why this is a problem. This is a problem because Fannie Mae guidelines are different than Freddie Mac guidelines, which are different from FHA guidelines, which are different from VA guidelines, which are different from USDA guidelines. And so how, with an inexperienced loan officer, they just didn't know where to look, or they only knew 1 out of the 5 guidelines or the 4 guidelines. This is why this is a problem. And quite frankly, Mr. or Mrs. Viewer, the solution is easier than you think. The majority of problems during the loan process comes from inexperienced loan officers. Now, hopefully they just made a mistake that's stalling your loan, and not a mistake that you never qualified in the first place. But based on this particular situation, the solution is easier than you think. So you're always reinforcing as you unpack the hook. Remember, the hook is the problem. Unpacking the hook is, you're not alone. This is a common problem. Here's why you had this problem, the same reason why everybody else had this problem. And the solution is actually easier than you think. And the first step to solving this, you've already taken, because you're watching my video now. So what is the solution? Discuss underwriting guidelines on the solution. So this is the underwriting guideline that needs to be applied, that wasn't applied to your situation, or that the underwriting guideline that they didn't know. And then talk about interpretation issues, because remember, this isn't always that the loan officer doesn't know the guidelines. That could be overlays. It could be lender overlays. It could also be an issue of underwriter discretion. Underwriter discretion is a really, really big issue, especially when you start moving into VA. Your underwriter discretion, that underwriter could simply not have experience with this guideline. And when you explain that, and then this wasn't the first time I've seen this situation. So the reason that I know this, the reason that I know there's these issues, is because this isn't the first time that I've seen it. So this is how you kind of unpack the solution, so that the consumer knows that you're backing out of where their problem was. They're in a problem now. You're backing out of it. You're backtracking and you're showing where things went wrong. So this is where you're unpacking the hook and you're talking about what the solution is. The next thing you're going to do is once you talk about what the solution could be, you're going to talk about how you applied it. The way we solved this problem for this family was by following this step-by-step process. So on a previous episode, the one right before this one is what questions consumers are asking. I showed an example of an email that I got from somebody that had a bunch of questions about qualifying for student loans. If that was my client and I had an opportunity to work with that client, and that email was a couple of years old, I don't even recall where they came from. Again, when you have a website that gets tens of thousands of visitors a month, most of them are in states I'm not licensed in, so those go to the Find My Way Home Expert Network, and somebody else can help them. But when you apply when you talk about this solution, you talk about, we ran into this problem. This is why this is a common problem. These are some of the reasons why this can be a common problem, or why this is a common problem. Here are the step-by-step process that I went through to unravel this problem and get these folks into a loan. And it could be, on the student loan example, it could be that the person that their student loans were not in repayment, you used a special resource that to get them into a income-based repayment with a zero payment option. So you didn't have to use a 0.5% calculation so that their debt to income ratio is qualified. That's kind of an example of, this is the step-by-step process that I went through to solve their particular problem. Again, you don't have to solve the exact problem of the person watching your video, but by you going through the steps, talking about what the issue is, why this is a common problem, you're not alone. Here's what the guidelines are. Here's the step-by-step process on how I applied these guidelines for this family and how we navigated through this entire situation. And then you want to tell in your video, you want to talk about, how do you avoid this yourself? Educate yourself first, exactly like what you're doing now. Like this, you're watching this video, and I am a experienced mortgage professional talking to you about my personal experience solving this problem. Avoid filling out lead forms. Mr. and Mr. Consumer, I know that you came online because you have questions about qualifying for a mortgage. Your intention is not to fill out a lead form. You don't have to fill out a lead form. You can find folks like me. You can reach directly out to me, and I can answer your questions. And speak to an expert like me. If it sounds to me like I could solve this problem for you, you just need to look a little bit longer. If you fill out the form, you're going to get a telemarketer that's sitting in a room somewhere answering phone calls. But if you put in a little bit extra effort, you find videos like this, you know that you can trust me, and I'm happy to answer your questions. And then we have the offer to help close. If you have a similar situation and you have questions, I am happy to help. Connecting is easy. You can click the link below. And in your description, you always want to put your Calendly link. You can put your phone number if you'd like. You can put an email address if you'd like. I don't know if you can put an email address in a YouTube description, but you can put a Calendly link down there. And I would almost always encourage people to ask your question in the comment thread below, in the comment section. The reason you want to do that is because when other consumers see that video and they see that there's a dialogue there and that there's questions being asked and you're answering those questions, that is absolute magic. I have articles on Find My Way Home that literally have hundreds and some have thousands of comments. And when other consumers see those comments, they know that this is a safe place to go to get their questions answered. So always encourage people to ask their questions. And again, it's semi-anonymous and there's no pressure. Remember, consumers don't want to talk to salespeople. They just have questions and they want to get their questions answered. Finally, empower consumers, educate them about NMLS numbers, how to look up the NMLS number for their loan officer. Again, we are gambling on the fact that they went online first. They got sucked into a telemortgager company or a lead generation company. They got contacted by somebody that might have an NMLS number. They probably only had it for 6 months and they probably delivered pizzas prior to that. So teach consumers how to look up the credentials and the experience of other loan officers. I think that's a really, really important part of your offer to help close, is helping consumers to protect themselves so that they don't get into this situation again. The authenticity, it is almost impossible for you to recall past client stories without invoking some of the original emotion that caused you to choose this story. Your authenticity is going to be immediately spotted. That's one of the reasons why I really, really like past client stories, is because you remember the experience, you remember the joy, you remember the pain, you remember the frustration, and you remember getting to the finish line and what that felt like for you and what that felt like for your client. And that comes across. That's that authenticity that's going to attract consumers, because you're genuinely recalling this success story. Folks, this is the last video in this series. This series was 4 videos: Content Creators Confidence Kit, Video Content Cheat Code, Consumer Direct Q&A, and Past Client Success Stories. These 4 episodes, if you're just kind of stuck and you're not sure what kind of things to talk about or how to structure your stories or how to create what kinds of stories to tell and how to tell those stories, these 4 videos are going to give you that foundation, and they're going to give you the training wheels, and they're going to get you started so that you can start doing this on your own. Here's the fun part. Now, if you are the do-it-yourself type, or if you just enjoy this conversation, if you like the things that I'm talking about and you want to learn more, we have a free community. It's set up on a service called Circle.io. It's a really cool community. Go in there. It's 100% free. I'm posting all of our videos. I'm posting all the videos from YouTube and all of our podcast episodes before they're published most of the time. We're sharing content ideas, we're sharing strategies, and we are just a community of content creators learning how to dominate and how to market proof our pipelines as a second opinion loan officer by creating content, publishing it, and then converting those conversations into commissions. So this is 100% free. You can go to findmywayhome.com/solo, SOLO. There's also links to this on the YouTube channel, in the description, anywhere you're seeing this video. And there's a QR code here as well. If you are not the do-it-yourself type and you're looking for a done-for-you solution, that is what I do at the Find My Way Home Expert Network. What we will do is, again, I told you earlier, we get tens of thousands of visitors to findmywayhome.com every single month. The overwhelming majority of those visitors are asking us to connect them with a mortgage expert that we know, like, and trust that can help them out. We will make those introductions. We will introduce you to those consumers now, and we're going to help you create videos for later. So what the Find My Way Home Expert Network really is a done-for-you solution to create video content, to hold your hand, give you training wheels. We're going to inspire you. We're going to show you what content to talk about. We're going to have a professional director. Here's one of the cool things about when we create content with you. It's It's just like doing a Zoom call. We have a professional director that's on your computer that's going to ask you questions, and they're going to ask you to explain your story and to tell your story to them. So we're going to direct your story. We're going to pull it out of you. We're going to produce that story. We're going to publish it. We're going to transcribe it, publish it as a blog post on Find My Way Home. We're going to publish it on your YouTube channel so you can build up your audience, your authority, and your inbound high trust referrals. We're also going to promote that content for you. We're going to capture conversations from your content. We're going to follow up on those leads. All you have to do is reply to texts, answer your phone, respond to emails, or you have to meet Calendly appointments because they're going to go to your Calendly appointment and they're going to schedule a time to talk to you. So all of that is done, 100% done for you. So thanks again for being here. Again, if you really want to get a head start, if you just happen to see this episode, watch the 4 episodes prior to this one. Those 4 episodes together are going to really just launch you into a content creation mode, and give you more topics than you would ever know than you would ever know how to create. And we're going to give you the structure, and we're going to train you on how to structure those stories so that you can get more questions from consumers that are looking for answers about how to qualify for a mortgage. And we're going to help position you so that you're the one that can help them. So thanks for joining me. I will see you on the next episode.